Morning, everyone, and welcome to this session, which is going to provide you with some information about Aztec software and allow you to pose some of the questions that your organizations have. Thank you, Matt Jones from Aztec, for planning to be with us on your long Thanksgiving weekend. We have with us this morning representatives of the Learning Hub and of Good Learning Anywhere, two of the e-channel literacy and basic skills online delivery organizations in the province of Ontario that Contact North supports. So may I let each of you just say good morning to Matt, and then perhaps we can get going, and Courtney's just joining us. Could I go to Julie first?
Good morning.
Good morning.
And Linda?
Good morning, everybody.
And Warren?
Hey, good morning, guys. Hope everyone's doing well. This is day 5 of lockdown in Toronto, so it's I don't know, feels a little different, but happy to be here.
And Tess?
Morning, everyone. Sorry to hear that, Warren. Hope you have a good day. Gosh, it's going to be a long run.
Yeah. And Vanessa?
Morning, everyone. Matt, just for a little background, I'm from the Hub, the Learning Hub program.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. And Courtney?
Hi, Matt. My name is Courtney. I'm also with the Learning Hub, and happy to be here. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
I think we've got everyone. So I would like to know if anyone has any burning questions before we let Matt tell you a little bit more about Aztec. Let me look at the chat because I've been ignoring that, just making sure I admitted everybody.
So kind of what my plan is to go through a little bit of a slide deck with all of you, just to kind of give you an overview of our history, where we're at, what we do, all those good things, and then obviously open up for questions at the end. And then we can take a dive into the actual platform so you can see how it operates from that standpoint, and then obviously answer any questions from that point on as well.
That work for everybody?
Is that fair?
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
All right, good. I am going to stop my video because my bald head tends to be a little bit distracting. So I'm going to stop my video. So you've all seen me, so that's good. So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. And, you know, Sarah, I know you and I talked, when was it? Probably beginning of the month or something like that. It's been a while, but I appreciate you organizing this, and I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you and working with you all. So just what I like to do is give you a little bit of a background on myself, just so you have an idea of who, you know, you're going to be working with, you know, potentially moving forward. So I'm actually an honorary Canadian. My wife is Canadian. She was born in Windsor. And so we actually crossed the border. Well, we were crossing the border just about every weekend, but now because of the lockdown and all the border issues, we haven't been able to. So I've pretty much been all through Canada, and, you know, on vacations and whatnot. So anyways, besides that, I have been in education for about 20 years now. I've worked in both private sector or for-profit institutions, meaning like trade schools, if you're familiar with that. I've also worked with large publishers such as McGraw-Hill, Elsevier. Most of my career was spent within the private sector portion of education, where I worked with a lot of returning learners. And in some cases, they were dual enrollment students, meaning that they were also working on getting their high school equivalency while working on a trade, such as becoming a medical assistant or something like that. I could, you know, share many success stories with you throughout the years that I worked in that industry, but one that really sticks out to me is I had a 22-year-old young man that came to me, and he wanted to become a medical assistant, but he didn't have his high school equivalency. So, you know, he put a lot of work in. He was working on his high school equivalency while also taking classes to become a medical assistant. And today that young man is, well, he's not young anymore, but is a physician's assistant. So I really take pride in that. I have a great appreciation for what all of you do on a daily basis and changing lives. And here at Aztec, we have that same mentality. We help to change lives. So I'm going to go through and just kind of introduce you a little bit to Aztec now that you know a little bit about me. So one of the things that, so first off, we've been around for 40 years. We were actually founded by 2 adult educators. And so we're actually celebrating our 40th birthday this year, which is really exciting. So one of the things that's really changed over the course of these 40 years is that we've grown. So when we first started, we wanted to ensure that we had the best computer-based preparation program in the market, so we can check that box. We then started looking at how we can further develop ourselves so that we can help develop you and the learners that you support in your various communities. So we started our life skills education division and recently had Paxson Publishing join our Aztec family. If you don't know about our life skills education, which I'm going to talk more about, we have a tremendous library of life skills, adult education focused, soft skills training, and then Paxson Publishing is the best and largest print-based publisher for ABE and HSE out in the market today. And so with this being the case, now we have this complete offering to offer all of our clients. So I'm just going to dive right in and discuss what we do overall. One of the things that I stress to the various programs that I work with is that, I realize that we're really not your only choice when it comes to selecting a partner. I'm sure you've worked with many publishers in the past, and right now you're probably looking to see what the best fit is going to be for your program. So these are the 5 components that I always tell programs that they should look out for and they should ask questions about. There is a 6th component on here that I want to point out first, and that is that we are specifically built for adult learners by adult educators. That's super important because that is the Aztec that is the foundation of Aztec, and that is probably the #1 component that will make a difference for you. There's a lot of companies you can choose from out in the market, obviously, but you should find out who has actually built their system for adult learners, adult educators, and who is really potentially recycling K-12 material. So the first part of that is we have a world-class education system, meaning that everything we talk about today is stored in our Aztec Learning Management System. That system is specifically optimized for adult education and workforce groups. So we have a completely online version that can be accessed anywhere, anytime, on any device, and on any modern browser. So we're cloud-based, no downloads. We also have an offline version, should that be needed for your program as well. The second part of that is that same learning management system is what powers each one of our products in any one of the 4 arenas that we're working in. So we have a very strong ABE program and are very known for HSE prep solution. We realize that the HSE prep is important for those students who are looking to continue their education journey. So we've also built out some post-secondary prep products as well. Then we always want to ensure that we provide students with those non-academic learning and skills that they're going to need in order to be successful outside of the classroom into today's world. So that's why we built out our employability skills and soft skills training products as well. So I'm going to get into more of the specifics of the products here shortly, but I want you to have an understanding that I can offer a solution in any of those, and of course a mix of all those different things. The other part of what you should know about Aztec is that we have superior content. When I say that, I'm really talking about 3 important metrics that you should know. So first off, we're the top performing publisher according to GED Testing Services data. So for the past 5 years, we've had the highest percentage pass rate at 90%. So we're very proud of that. Secondly, we serve the most programs in the market. So right now in the US, we serve about 65% of the market. And that is not that they're only using, Aztec software. They could be using life skills education or Paxson Publishing potentially, making us not only the largest, but really what it provides is the most learning opportunities. And lastly, as a testament to those last 2 things, is that we have incredible client loyalty. We have clients that have been with us for many years and newer clients who really feel that difference because we have such strong content. So when I'm talking about client loyalty, right now we're at about a 99% renewal rate. So customers who partner with us tend to really stay with us. So the content is driven because we have this continuous review of our alignment process of the changes to assessments, which is a key indicator to success and what helps to drive that high pass rate that you saw. Some of this, based on the Canadian education system, may not necessarily apply to you, like CASAS or TABE or so on and so forth, but we can get into more of that too. And that continuous process has also led us to some interesting partnerships, especially with Kaplan and GED testing services, because we've had those high pass rates, because we're a continuous learning organization ourselves. We've been able to get these exclusive partnerships that nobody else is going to be able to offer you, but really make a huge difference to your program and to your students. So you will hear more about our exclusive partnership with Kaplan. I'm going to get into that. Excuse me. They're a huge part of our HSE prep solution. The National Association of Workforce Boards is also a huge part of our life skills education series. And with GED testing, not only do we power some of their own GED Works programs, but they're also an exclusive partner of ours and have selected us to create some incredible, useful tools that I'll tell you more about here shortly as well. So the fifth part of that is we're incredibly proud of is that we have hands-on support at every single level. So you know that better than anyone else that great products and great technology is only as good as the training that you actually get with it, right? You have me here, obviously, as your account manager, but I want you to know that the folks that you don't see are really the rock stars that are going to help you out, which are field service representatives that take a white glove approach to assisting you. So you would be assigned potentially 2 field service representatives that would service specifically your account. And those are the folks that you'd be continually working with as long as you partner with us throughout that partnership. So once we identify really what your needs are, we build out an implementation and training plan. Training is always ongoing, and we also want to ensure that you're getting the max optimization, and that if need be, we can make adjustments along the way. It's also important to point out that all training and implementation is at no extra cost to you. So I'm going to dive into more of our products here. So from our, conversation that I had, with Sarah, it sounded like, you have the responsibility of, touching learners at various stages. So as we all know in adult education, there's no 2 cohorts. Adult learners come in with different skill sets, different mastery levels. So we built a system that reflects that reality and reflects your needs. So this is our academic continuum of learning. You'll notice we have content from low-level literacy being grade level fluency 0.5 all the way through our Kaplan high school fluency and then on to college success. I wanted to point out the Kaplan high school fluency for a minute. This is where we have our content paired with the high-quality Kaplan video lessons throughout all 4 subjects. So you might be asking, Matt, what is the starting point or how do we determine where a student is based on how your content is aligned? We actually have a full crosswalk that I'll show you regardless of if you're using, and I don't think you all use TABE or CASAS, but we do have an Aztec locator series test that's actually free that would place your student in the appropriate product that we offer. So this is the crosswalk that I was just mentioning, and this is based off CASAS and TABE. On the left-hand side, you see our Aztec series. In the middle, you see the interest levels. With the Aztec proprietary locator series, when a student takes that, it would place them in either fundamentals or between fundamentals and foundations, bridge, so on and so forth. So it's placed them specifically into our content. Every one of our series, regardless if you're using fundamentals, foundations, bridge, or the Kaplan high school equivalency, are all built on the same methodology. So our intent is to get the student to their goal as quickly but as efficiently as possible. That's why all of our academic series is based on creating an individualized learning plan. That individualized learning plan starts off with a pre-test where the student then moves into instruction, then skills practice, and then finally the post-test. So I wanted to show you an example of a pretest and of the pretest experience. On our pretest, the intent is to tell what level they're at. All questions on the pretest are randomized. They're variable item types as well. Randomized because we have a huge question bank to choose from. So we want all the students to have a different experience. The question type or variable item types ensure that we can start prepping them for the actuality of taking their high school equivalency test. We have technology enhanced questions, multiple choice, drag and drop, everything that they're going to experience. Secondly, I want you to know something that is more important for the educator. We built an individual classroom, a visual classroom management tool that's really going to help the educator. So once, everything I believe that you do is distance learning, but once we're back into the classroom, let's say if that was the case, and going on the fact that no adult ed program is, really cohort style, they're all different levels. They're all at, so imagine if you had half of your class getting ready for, a GED prep, let's say, and the other half are mixed between elementary and middle school GLEs. Now your educator can stand behind the room and watch where everyone is at. So here is an example. The yellow band indicates that they're on an assessment screen. So now you'll know if Ben is in an assessment screen, and if you see a blue band, you'll know that Matt is on an instruction screen. So we have all of these things baked in. The important thing to note about that is that this is evidence. This is exactly what I was talking about when I said that we're a learning organization. This tool itself came as a result of working with our clients, asking them what else can we do. We're always open to that type of feedback. So we're always open to feedback from our current customer base, wanting to know, what changes would you like to see? What things would you like to see implemented? So we're always open to those ideas as well. Another thing to note here is that we have built in all the test experience tools, the calculator, scratch notes. You can always flag questions. All of that is currently in the system. And then once we're actually done with the pretest, we have now the scoreboards. This is what's going to help us build out the individualized learning plan. All the data here, and I can't stress this enough, but all the data here gets pushed over to the educator side. So here we're looking at it as if we're a student. On the left-hand side, it indicates the question. Once someone clicks on it, the question pops up. The question, the question will pop up actually with the answer, but more importantly, the explanation of that answer as well. So we never miss an opportunity to remediate. We never miss an opportunity to teach. So even though this student got this question right, we're still giving them that feedback of how to get to that correct answer. And then if you were to scroll down from that screen, you'll see the learning recommendations. So here we want to make sure that we celebrate the students' accomplishments and their existing knowledge, but more importantly, we want to identify the path to address their deficiencies. So here the suggested learning recommends that we go to these two sections. It's already hyperlinked, so the student clicks on there and it automatically launches them into the objective screen. So now we're going to tell them what to study and get them actually on their way. Once they go into the actual instruction screen, these are the instruction screens. Again, notice the blue band. And this is an example of what they're going to learn. Very engaging. We have skill checks embedded into the lesson. Incorrect, it shows them why. This is an example of our Kaplan GED section, which actually has a Kaplan video, which I can show you when we actually get into the system and what that looks like. So I want to note a few things here. We partnered exclusively with Kaplan because these videos help with student engagement. They really reinforce learning in a different modality, and it's going to make a huge difference in your program. So you know that better than anyone else, we work with students who suffered academic trauma. We work with traumatized students where that trauma looks different for every student. It impacts them all differently. But what we do know is that if we get them back on track and celebrate their current knowledge, we can go ahead and address their deficiencies in an engaging, respectable, responsible way. We're going to have better outcomes. This is why we partner with Kaplan. And then I'll actually, like I said, show you one of the videos once we get into the system. The other part to note here is that on the lower left-hand side of the slide, with this particular slide, you'll notice where it shows apply. that is actual handwriting. So we ensured that Kaplan does not only have the production quality that we're all hoping for, but that especially in math, it's not just text. The educator here is actually going to be doing the work with an actual pen on the screen in order to ensure the student understands the steps that he's taking. So one of the things I want to note on that, and the reason why that's important to note, is that no longer do you have to go out there searching for new videos, nor check to see if their production quality is good or if the theories or methodology is good. It's already done for you with the Kaplan videos embedded into the system. So this is an example of skills practice questions. After the lesson, the student can do some additional drills. So again, we're always showing them the explanation of how to get to that correct answer. So in this particular instance, the student got the question incorrect. It shows them what the correct answer is and how to get to that correct answer. And this is an example of a student getting it correct, and it still shows them that feedback as well. The post-test functions just like the pre-test, and it allows us to get that delta between the pre and post-test. And then we have that, the post-test experience. Again, same thing as before. We want to make sure that we can gauge their growth. So we'll be able to see that delta between the pre and post-test. That experience is always the same. We still give them a feedback. We still tell them if they need additional suggested learning, and then we can go back and remediate if need be. As I mentioned, it's all built out of a neutralized learning plan. So here we can keep track of things that they were away from and the things that were a critical path. So because I believe that you all would be using GED, we can talk more about that preparation. I wanted to point out a couple things for you because of our outcomes. We've had a very long existing partnership with GED testing service. As I mentioned, we were selected by them to help build GED Flash. GED Flash is the official practice tool built in partnership with GED testing service. So what they are, they're basically digital flashcards provided 10 questions at a time in all of the different subjects that help the student practice. This is important to know because this has really been something that has been missing from the field for a very long time. You might be familiar with using GED Ready. GED Ready obviously has a fee, and GED Ready was built to be a readiness indicator assessment to determine if the student was ready to go on to the actual operational test. But you are probably, or your educators are probably using GED Ready as practice. Unfortunately, it's expensive and it's very limited, test bank. So with GED Flash, we have thousands of questions across all 4 subjects. The educator can assign the different subjects to the student depending on whether you're going over that subject in the class and the student needs additional assistance there. Whatever the reason, the educator has the ability to do that. It's a great tool, but you're probably saying, do I need it? Does it really make a difference? Does it work? So I want you to know, at least for in the US, the average non-passing score is a 141. That is important because GED Flash is helping students increase their operational test score by 4 full points. You know that anyone else, that better than anyone else, those 4 points are getting them closer to being able to pass. The other thing is that because this study was done on GED Math, which is historically the toughest subject for students than any other subject, you should see an increase in scores. Another interesting point about this is that a second data point on the study covered is that students are 79% more confident going into the GED test by using Flash. The reason behind that is because first off, they've never had access to this robust bank of questions because we have variable question types, multiple choice, and technology enhanced questions. They're getting practice on all of those things. And the other part of that is that they're being given questions at that right level because they're vetted by GED testing service. The other part I wanted to tell you about is another product we recently launched with GED testing about probably 6 months ago, and our partner with Kaplan, which is called GED Play. It's really an on-demand video library. The videos also cover all 4 subjects, and it's aligned to GED Flash and to the GED test. So as an example, if you've identified a student who's doing poorly on basic math using GED Flash, you could then flip them over to GED Play to see a short video lesson. So just like all of our other products, we have performance insights. So all of the data is being captured and then recorded, performance, time on task, etc., all of which get fed over to the educator. You will always be able to have that data for reporting purposes. I'm going to go into this, skip that. Employability and soft skills. So life skills education is a huge part of what we do here at Aztec. We know that 60% of students are seeking their high school equivalency because they want to go on to post-secondary. A lot of them also want to make sure that they can go on to a good paying job. But these students, because of that academic trauma that I'd mentioned, all have varying issues, non-academic in nature, that impact their ability to learn and impact their ability to persevere. So that's why we really need to arm them with skills and topics that they normally wouldn't find in the classroom. And this is where life skills education comes in. So our library is over 220 different titles. As you can see on the screen here, we have reentry and transition because we deal with a lot of folks that have, we deal with a lot of correctional institutions. We also have getting and keeping a job, parenting, alcohol, substance abuse, youth, career skills. There's a huge library on career skills, domestic violence, military life, a lot of socially emotional topics as well. So this library contains everything a student would need in an easy to read format. They're typically written at about the 7th, 8th grade reading level. The other thing we've worked hard at ensuring that we're aligned to the National Association of Workforce Boards. So they vetted and approved all of these different titles so that we're partners with them on that. Your students would have actually access to all of these different titles. I know I've said it before, but because this product is housed in our LMS, everything is tracked. So again, time on task, etc., it's all tracked. So you've already seen a number of screens on our platform. I wanted to make sure that I touched on a few other things really quick here. As I mentioned, we built this platform for adult learners and adult education programs. The system is very intuitive, easy to manage for the educator as well as the students. The system is very nimble so that the educator can create custom classes along with a number of other things that our field service representatives will be able to help you with. So real-time monitoring, robust insights. These two specific tools will help your educators further gain insight into a student's performance. You have the ability to look into their profile to see what the student's working on and what they're having trouble with. These are some of the features and functions that you're not going to find anywhere else. And that's, again, going to make a huge difference in the learning of your students, because now, even if it's distance learning or in class, even if it's homework, you'll have the ability to manage that student and help them along their way. So everything you see here gets tracked. So we have a robust reporting system that you'll be able to tap into for reporting purposes, and all that's required for Ontario, let's say. So this is just a quick view of Learning Central. This is where your student will have all of their assigned classes. As I mentioned, you can assign different sections of a product. You can go ahead and customize their experience. We want to make sure that you take some ownership of this experience, and that's why you have all of these features available to you. This here is an example of reporting system. So here you'll be able to pull the reports on individual students, on an individual student activity, exams, or learning. Lots of different types of reports that you can actually pull. Here's an actual screen from a student profile, which is their classroom view. So this is all their performance on this specific class. I show this because not only do we have this robust reporting and feedback to the educator, the student also gets to see that same feedback. So how many activities they actually have, how much time they've spent in the system, all of this helps to keep the student accountable and engaged into the system. So there's a variety of different licensing setups that are out there in the market today. Some require you to pay per student, some are non-reusable, some require you to activate and reactivate. At Aztec, we use a concurrent licensing model, meaning however many licenses you get under a certain series, they're reusable for other students. So as an example, if you were to get 10 licenses of our Kaplan GED prep solution as an example, you can have 10 students using concurrently, and then once they log off, another 10 can log in. So you're only investing in the number of licenses you need during peak hours. And then lastly, this is my contact information, which I've also put into chat as well. So if you wanted to jot that down, but again, I did put that in chat. And right now I'm going to stop sharing. And I am going to unmute myself if I can figure out how to do that. Or start my video. There we go. Okay, so based on going through those slides, does anybody have any like questions that they can think of off the top of their head? Really quick?
Matt, there've been a few questions posted in the chat that
Okay.
I perhaps could get you to address first. And if you'd like to voice your own question, that's fine, everyone. Vanessa asked right off the bat if the GED prep has any Canadian social studies content.
It doesn't have any Canadian social studies, content from a standpoint of, I guess, more from a governmental type standpoint. The GED was updated back in the Obama administration. So it's more aligned to that. With the social studies content, it's more comprehension than anything else would be my answer to that. Now, what I can say is I can speak with our chief operations officer on Monday, since we're all off today because of the holiday, and kind of discuss more of that with him and figure out, exactly how to, I guess, address that question, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Matt. Yes, of course, the Canadian curricula that all of these providers have to follow is based on the Ontario Adult Literacy Curriculum Framework and its requirements. So of course that we understand you have been working with a different perspective, but yes, that I think is of importance. Another point came from Courtney, who wanted to note that all of the programming from these providers will continue to be 100% online because we're all set up to be online providers. That
Yep.
These are not organizations that just pivoted to remote delivery. They've been doing online delivery pretty much since 2007.
Sure.
And I think that, let me see. Julie asked, is there a limit to how many can log in at one time? I'm assuming that with the concurrent licensing structure, it would have more of, it would be more a question of how many licenses we had. But Julie, you're welcome to jump in if you were, if you meant it a different way.
No, that's exactly it. So let's say we, Sioux Hudson Literacy gets, I don't know, 50 licenses. Is in the, so basically 50 learners can only log in at one time.
Yeah, so let's say if you had 50 licenses, 50 students could utilize the system at one time. Once one of those students logs off, another student can log in, if that makes sense that way. So you can have 50 students using concurrently. If you have certain times, let's say if you were running certain sessions throughout the day. So imagine if you had 50 students in a session, then 50 licenses would probably make sense. But then you have other students who may be just wanting to, go in to do some homework or whatever the case may be. So you kind of want to pad that a little bit, so you have the flexibility to allow other students to not be fighting over time to be able to get into the system.
Thank you. Go
Other
ahead, Julie.
questions.
Yep.
So I noticed that you called the one GD Flash. I'm assuming that's because of the flashcard type of thing. I'm assuming that all your content is HTML, knowing that Flash is going out as of December.
That's a great point. Yes. So we have been on HTML5 for the past year. So we do not operate under the Flash language. So everything that you see with Aztec is based on HTML5.
Perfect. I have more if nobody else has questions. I'm sorry, I was scrolling a lot.
Go for it.
I think you should go ahead.
Okay, I was wondering, so you have your content. So first I wanted to know how much curriculum, because obviously you have kind of different layers. Obviously you would have a wealth of curriculum. Do you have the ability to custom build? So pull out lessons from here and there to comprise into a personalized course?
You can do that, and that's part of being able to customize, the solution for you, and that's what our field service representatives will be able to help you with. So if you remember kind of and we'll look at it when we get into the live system, but sometimes, I work with a lot of different accounts, and when a student first logs in, they only want their student to see the pre-test, before they see the lessons. So we can do that. So we could pull certain things out of each individual lesson if you wanted to be able to customize it from that standpoint as well. So there's a lot of different things we can do. The great thing is, with as many different locations as you all have, you're all going to have different needs and things like that. So, as an example, I work with, a couple of community college systems that have 10 plus campuses. They all have their different needs and different wants. And so we've been able to go in and be able to accommodate those needs and wants per location based on what their requirements were.
So that means, Matt, that you as account managers would manage that, or do we have the capabilities to build it ourselves as programs?
So the administrator will have some access to be able to do some of those things once through the onboarding process, we'll get you updated, trained, all those good things on how you can customize certain things on your level. The field service representative has a different level of, I guess, accessibility to be able to go in and say, you work with him or her directly and you say, this is what I want to happen. Then we can make that happen that way.
Okay. My other question had to do with, so you were talking about like life skills versus high school equivalency versus blah, blah, blah. So the 5 different streams. Is it all one login to your system? Or because you were talking about how like GED Flash versus if they needed some extra support, you could send them over to GED Play, so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's all a single login platform.
Okay.
So everyone logs in from the same place. So if you see this, can you see this login screen here?
Yep.
See this? Yeah. So this is our login screen, and it's built for all profile types. So whether you're a student, educator, administrator, everyone logs in from here. And then we've also built in a couple easier login methods as well, especially for the students, because we know that they're more apt to remember their Amazon login versus their learner account logins. But yes, everyone logs in from the same thing. And so each individual student, typically with a student ID, obviously a unique password. Like I said, we work with a lot of corrections folks, so inmate IDs, so on and so forth.
Okay.
I'm just going to pull your attention. Courtney had asked previously about a text to read within the system. Is that tool there?
Yeah, so all of our solutions have audio support. The one thing that I'm going to kind of, I'll talk about here a little bit is our life skills series, which I went through. So we have, like I said, 220 different titles within life skills under each of those different topics that I had, mentioned there. Probably about 70% of those at this point have audio support. Our goal is to get audio support up and running on every single one of those by the first quarter. So you may go into a life skills, particular, lesson, and it might not have audio today, but tomorrow you log in and then there's audio support available.
Matt, can I ask a question just about this login?
I can barely hear you, but yep.
Oh, sorry. Is that better?
Yes.
Is the login page customizable? Like if we wanted to have different buttons or we didn't want Amazon there or what have you?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, but I can find that out.
Okay. And then a related question is with the user ID and password criteria, can we set that up however we want, or are there restrictions?
Okay, I'm sorry. What was that question again? I was writing your first one down.
Yeah, the user ID and password configuration, can we set that up however we want, or
Yep.
do we have particular restrictions?
No, you can set that up however you want.
Okay.
Can I just piggyback on that audio question?
Sure.
Is it only in the life skills or what about like
Nope, it's
random math lesson?
all of
random
our series.
It's just the life skills one that still has some more to go.
We're not at 100% on
Yeah,
life
okay,
skills,
okay.
but yes, everything else is audio support.
Thanks.
I know that there has been consistent need to think about course customization from these two groups. Do any of you have any other comments or questions for Matt about course customization? Is there any bypass of preparation of the individual learning plans, Matt, that's available if the educators want to just look at the results of pre-tests and set that up for their students themselves?
Yes, there is.
Okay. And I know that assessment is also of importance. Do any of you have any specific assessment questions?
I'm interested to see, like, when we get on that side. So I know that each one has a pre-test and post-test, which is similar to one of the platforms that we're currently using. Is there kind of a standardized number to those pre and post? We found that sometimes with ours, with the generation, sometimes it makes it significantly longer.
Mhm.
Um, so do you kind of have it standardized at like kind of that 20 to 25 mark, or how
You
does
mean
that
number of questions?
questions? You got it.
Yeah, so I can show you an example of that when we go into there, so you can see how many questions that we have.
Okay. And then in terms of editing, we ran into some hiccups along the way with one of the platforms that we're using right now. Um, what is the process for that with Aztec?
With editing,
Yeah.
so like meaning a word's not spelled correctly or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Obviously outside of US versus Canadian spelling.
yeah. Like color is spelled different here than it
Yeah.
is there, type of thing,
Yeah.
right? So basically all of, and I can show you, so all of the questions are coded. So that's what's important for the educator and for, you know, the administrator. So the questions are coded. If you found something that was not spelled correctly or something, which I can tell you is honestly a rarity, but if you found something of that, whether it's math or reading or whatever the case may be, you can send that, you know, code to us, that question number, and then we can go in and correct it.
Okay.
Okay.
And then my other question has to do more with the writing content that's available. Do they physically get to write? What does that look like? I would love to, when you go to give us a tour, if we could see something on that vein.
Okay. I'll see if I can pull that up. Okay.
Thank you.
And I just had a question with regards to the customizable building.
Yep.
You said that that would be something that more the service reps would be involved in. The administrators do have some ability.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case and we had to go to the service reps to custom build something for us, what is the time frame that we could expect something like that to be completed in?
So with an account that's your size, it would be really quick. You know, with an account you guys are servicing, I mean, how many students are we talking total?
Each program's different. So our program serves about 3,500.
Yeah. So, I mean, with, you know, with the number of, I mean, it would be a quick, you know, turnaround. We might have 3 field service representatives that work with your accounts, just to make sure everything is, you know, up to speed, everybody's trained. So the first step is basically, you know, we agree on terms, quote, so on and so forth. everything looks good. We start to build out an implementation and training plan where we meet with your locations individually through web meeting like we're doing now, going through the system, getting you up to speed from an administrative standpoint, from an educator standpoint on how and what access you have. And then we can talk about what type of level of customizations you need. And the other good thing to mention too is that all of our licenses, like you saw, fundamentals, foundations, bridge, the Kaplan GED, those are all each individualized licenses. So the beautiful thing too about working with us is you have flexibility. So meaning that you can adjust the license mix throughout the year. So let's say if you bought so many licenses in Bridge, as an example, you have the ability to borrow licenses from Bridge and put into foundations, because you have all of a sudden you have more students that are in foundations. So you have the flexibility to adjust that license mix when you're getting into the program and utilizing it. So that's a really great, from a flexibility standpoint, you have the ability to do that. But from a, training side, I mean, we'll be on top of it. I can promise you that. So think of me as kind of like your quarterback. And then, we'll have our field service representatives. You will have your own dedicated line to call in for tech support, dedicated email, chat. All of those things are going to be available to you. All of our customer service and tech support is in-house out of our New Jersey office, so we don't outsource anywhere. So everything is right there for you.
Do you have a
Thanks.
catalog, Matt, just like of topics or on your website where we could know what kind of things are like fall underneath fundamentals, fall underneath foundations? Like
Yeah.
if we got to that point to be able to decide how many licenses we may
Yeah.
need
So
for
I
each
can send
given.
you, I don't know if I sent you the guide, Sarah, or not. I can't remember if I did as an attachment.
You did. I had distributed that, I think, with the invitation, but I don't know if there's anything more detailed.
Okay. So the other site, I mean, you can just visit our Aztec site. So aztec.com site, kind of scroll around a little bit there. The other important thing to note too is once, maybe Sarah, you can provide me with everybody's name and email address. I can get you all set up with a student account and drop some different courses in there so you can play around with it for a couple weeks.
I think, yes, I was about to ask about giving this group some test access.
Sure. Yeah.
Is there any way they can see can they change their roles when they're doing that and see any of the admin functions? Not necessarily everyone in this group would need that, but I think there would need to be probably some admin for the Good Learning Anywhere group and some for the Learning Hub group.
Okay.
Is that something that's also possible?
So the only thing that I am allowed to give you is student access, because I don't have access to the administrative stuff. But right now, what I can do is, if we really want to take a look at the admin side, which sounds like it's really important, I can have one of our field service representatives set up another call with whoever is going to be on the admin side, and kind of walk through the features and functions that way from the admin side. But just so you know, everything you're going to see and hear in most cases is the same stuff you're going to see on the admin side from reporting purposes, because again, we also want students to take ownership of what they're doing and know where they're at, know what's going on, all those good things.
And so coming back to those reports screen, I really like that the students can pull those in a handy way.
Yep.
Can you customize? So obviously our practitioners each have a caseload and we never actually see our students typically face to face. So they rely heavily on those reports. And are they able to be customizable? So you can choose a date span, kind of what they've achieved from X to Y,
Yep.
what type of lessons and all those other pieces, I'm assuming.
I don't think from the student side, but from the admin side and educator side, yes.
So that's the part that's really important. So that's what Sarah
Yep.
was alluding to.
Yep.
Just another quick question too. You talked about service reps per like per organization. Right now, we are two separate organizations within the same field. So service reps would be designated for the hub, and service reps would be designated for GLA, Sue Hudson.
Yep. That's correct.
Warren, I see you've posted in the chat. Could we take a look in the system using a demo account? Did you mean this morning or after this
No,
session?
I'd asked that question, and then I think you had brought it up as well about getting access to some accounts. So
So
Okay.
just so you all know, with getting you access, I won't be able to get you that till probably Monday, just because we're all off today. So
Totally fine.
I
okay,
wanted
no
to be on
worries.
this call with you all. I want you to know that. So I have no problem doing this. This is good stuff.
Well, we
I
appreciate it.
do have one other question about lower level stuff, Matt. I'm not sure how intimately you know the curriculum you have available. In terms of the content, does it have, you said you had a variety of questions. Do you have some that's like auditory where they're practicing their reading and they record it and then you can play it back to hear those types of things? Or
We
what
do
type of
not.
questions are we looking at?
We do not. We do not have that ability. But for low level reading, it's and I can show you what that looks like. So I'll go through just a couple different things here, so you can see that too. As long as everybody has a little bit of time, I'm happy to run through some of that. What was I gonna say? So was it GLA that has 3,500 students?
That's
a
the
hub.
Learning Hub.
Learning Hub. Okay.
That's not all at one time though. That's
Yeah.
over the course of,
The year.
yeah, at any given
Yeah.
time, probably more like 1,000 in the
Okay.
system.
And what about GLA?
We're about 1,500 a year, but again,
And,
not at all one time.
and
Okay.
usually maybe about 200 students enrolled in an independent platform.
Okay.
In our larger platform anyway.
Okay. All right. Perfect. I just wanted to make sure I got that written down. All right. So
Can I go back to, I just have
yep.
a question here. I
Go
just
for it.
jump in. So just going back to assessments for a minute, you were saying that the assessments within the system are adaptive. Did we talk at all about what levels, like, are you looking at when we're doing assessments, are they grading to school, grade school levels? Are they grading to some other scale? What does Aztec kind of align with?
It's based on their level.
Is level, is there a scale with that, or
So I
like a
guess
grade level, or?
so like basically for like fundamentals is grade level equivalency 0.5 to 2.9. So that would be, all based on, that, as far as grading goes.
So
and
I think she's
pardon me?
asking like, what are the components like of a 0.5? What kind of skill is that? Is that right, Linda?
No, I'm asking in the aspect of what like, so there's people that like you could use OALCF, which is what we use, right? There's essential skills, there's PDAC, or not PDAC, that's mining, PIAC, right? There's grade level, there's like grade school level, grade 1 to 12, those types of things. So I'm just wondering what scale that Aztec uses to align to, or what the levels are. Like if I was going to an employer or someone, I said, oh, well, I'm a level 2 here, what does that mean? So how do we use that to figure out where our client's at? So I'm just wondering if there's something that Aztec uses.
So in order to answer that question, I will have, if you want to email me that question, I can forward that along to one of our field service reps to see if I can get the answer
Okay.
for you. I apologize, but I don't want to give you the wrong information on that.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I just was curious because a lot of times when we're looking at assessments, we just need to know, we need to have a reference, right? Like if it's
Yeah.
this person's a level 2, is that a grade 5, right? Or that's typically how it was done. So we're just looking at how that would play into our learner plans.
Yeah, because we're aligned a little bit differently here, so we'll look at kind of see how that would look for you all. So let me get back to you on that. But if you want to email me that question at mjones@aztecsoftware.com, that would be great.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
And if you all have any other burning questions that you can think of, because that's always what happens, email me those questions and I will get those answers back to you. Okay,
Or I will forward any questions you
That's fine.
have as well, so you don't all have to send them individually if you don't want to. Now, I don't know how everybody's time is. Matt, did you hope to demo something within any of the courses, or?
Well, what's everybody's time? Because I need like 15 minutes.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, I know for Good Learning Anywhere, we're probably only good until about quarter after the hour.
Okay,
Because we'll have another meeting to run to,
so we got a little bit of time.
about 20 minutes.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to run through this kind of high level, like kind of, somewhat quick. So that way you can get a good idea of how some of these series look. So I've already explained the login page. So this is where all profile types would log in. So whether you're educator and student, instructor, will all log in from this page here. And I'm actually going to turn my video off again. So, one of the things to point out is that we come to so the first thing that happens when a student logs in is they come into their overall dashboard page. So this dashboard is really designed to provide the student with an overview of their participation within the system and all of the classes that they're actually enrolled in. So on the right-hand side, they have their they can see their active class time, which is how much time they're spending in the system, what they're spending their time on, whether it's lessons, drills, or tests. The left-hand side is an overview of when they logged in and how many courses that they're actually enrolled into. Across the top, the student can see any notifications. I'm gonna move you guys out of the way. Any notifications or announcements that have been pushed out from the instructor, from their instructor. So that would show up here. They also have access to any of their user settings as well that they can go into and do that. So they can test the computer, look at policies, access their profile, all of those good things. And one thing to point out here again too is all of this data is captured and fed back to the administrator. I remember somebody asking about date range. The student does have access to that. So they can look at last 7 days or up to last 30 days from that standpoint. Now, as an administrator, you can go custom ranges, anything you want to be able to do from that standpoint. So from here, the student would go into the classroom view. This is the central location where the student can access all of their classes. So there might be multiple classes depending on the program setup. So this singular classroom screen allows the learners to remain engaged and focused. So you as the educator have the ability to customize these tiles. And so this is kind of what I was talking about when you can somewhat take ownership of the system. So you can change the name if you wanted to a specific course number or whatever you want to name it. You can change the icon through our icon library as well. So you have the ability to do that. Up here, the student can see in these different tabs, what's not started, what's in progress, and what's been completed. So as you can see, I'm not a very good student. So if we were to start off with, let's just say fundamentals. So this is very low level literacy. So this is GLE 0.5 to 2.9. This particular screen is the landing page or landing dashboard for this particular course that the student is in. So up here, they have different tabs that they can go to. It talks about what their next activity is, which is sounds of the English alphabet. It talks about when their history, their class progress, how much time they've spent in it, my daily time in the past 7 days. Up here, we can go into our learning plan. And let's just go into fundamentals of reading as an example. So if we go into letters and sounds, so we have our units, then we have our lessons. So this would be an example of a pre-test experience. So if I go into my pre-test, this is the first thing a student's going to want to do on any of our different series is go into the pre-test. Now, from a customization standpoint, if you did not want the student to see all of these different lessons and drills, you have the ability to hide those. So the only thing they'll be able to see going in right off the bat would be the pretest, to take that pretest. So if we go into this pretest, this is an example of a pretest. So here we have the number of questions. It's keeping our time. So the system, another thing to point out too, is it times out after 10 minutes and it subtracts that time from the overall time in the system. So it's going to subtract that 10 minutes out from when they were active. And then the pretest we can drag and drop. And then we have this here. I don't know if you can hear that or not, because let me turn this up. Turn my volume up here. So I dragged and drop and I can click on this.
Cheat.
And then we go to the next question. So this particular one has 20 different questions. So we can go, I'm just gonna pick this one, even though I know it's wrong. Let's say, it's gonna let me drag. Listen to the word.
Road.
Okay, so I need to find the road. And then I can put it over here, which is road, or check it. And then click next. And then this is multiple choice.
Dime. Dome.
And then I can submit my work. Now, once I'm ready to submit, it's going to say, yes, I wish to submit for grading. Now what I have is, these are all of the questions that I've answered, which tells the student again, you know, what they've completed. It tells them the total score that they're not ready. You can always reset the pretest if you want to. You have the ability to do that. So I can show this particular question. And then I can drag and it shows actually what my answer was, and it gives me the explanation of how to get to that correct answer.
Matt?
If I were to, yep.
Are you able to, like, do you have to complete your pretest before, or can you stop and save at a certain point?
So you can either submit for grading, or you can exit out of it and it'll bookmark where you left off. Does that make sense?
Yep, thank you.
Okay. And this is that code that I was mentioning. This is that CCRS code. So if you did notice that something was incorrect or incorrect spelling, you can reference this code with this question and send it back to our tech support and they will get that corrected. So this one I did get right. So I can show the question and it says it was correct. And it still gives me that explanation. We know students tend to guess sometimes, but we still want to reinforce, we still want to remediate, we still want to teach. Down here.
Matt, can I just jump in? It's Linda. So is that something that the client would see then, like this, the codes and all of this? Is this kind of their, hey, this is how you did screen, or are we looking at this from an admin point of view here?
We're looking at it from a student point of view.
So this would be something that the student would see then?
Yeah, but they wouldn't even know what this was. They might ask and say, hey, what is this? And you would just say, oh, that's just, you know, a code for the question. All the questions are coded in the event something doesn't look right or a student has a question about.
Is it customizable at all?
From being able to not show that?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to find that out. I don't think so, but I can check and find out if that's something that can be done.
Okay.
Matt, it's Sarah. Is there any kind of sort of a user's guide for students who are just getting exposed to the dashboard for the first time?
Yeah. And you
okay.
will get the user guide to be able to pass out to students along with what their username is going to be and their temporary password.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And it's Julie here. I do have
Yep.
another question with regards to tech support. What are the communication pieces for your tech support?
As far as like, what do you?
So if a learner has some difficulties technically, are
Yep.
we directing them to contact you? And is there a number? Is it remote desktop? What tools do you have available for both learners and admins when it comes to tech support?
So admins have a dedicated line that they can call into. Students have an email address and an 800 number that they can call into.
Is that a 24/7, 365 number, or how does that work?
24/7, 365.
Perfect.
Matt, I
Ma-
noticed, sorry, I noticed you mentioned they get a temporary password with the guide. Is it possible to say this is your password and have it that they can't adjust it?
Yep.
Sweet.
Yep. You can do that for sure. If I were to scroll down from this particular slide here, so this is scoring results, and I scroll down, this is kind of what I was talking about before. I can go into, as an example, which one did I get wrong? Question number 4. So if I go into here, let's go into this one. It takes me right into the lesson. So I can get more practice on that lesson.
In this lesson, you will learn how to identify sounds for vowel pairs and identify sounds for R-controlled vowels.
And then I keep going through.
The vowels in the English alphabet are A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y.
Now, if a student finds the audio annoying, they can simply mute it. So as I'm going through this particular lesson, and I'm just going to skip, and you'll be able to know when a student's skipping through things. So you'll be able to see that on the admin side. I'm just doing it today for demo purposes, but all of our lessons have actual skill checks embedded. So then I can just go into and select the word or phrase and click OK, and it says incorrect, and then I can get an explanation. So again, it's keeping them engaged as they're going through the system. And this is the actual explanation here as well. So all of this, again, is being fed back over to the educator. This is another skill check. And I'm just, for the time purposes, I'm going to exit this lesson. So now what happens after this pretest, it shows that it's not ready. If I was still working on the pretest and I hadn't clicked on submit for grading, it will actually say, actually, let me just do this one really quick. I'll show you. So pretest launching, 24 questions. I'm just going to answer a few. Just go through. Next. And then I can exit instead of submit work. So I'm going to exit. And now it says the pretest is in progress. So an important thing to point out here is these little bubbles tell the student where they're at. So these are not started. So based on this pretest and based on the number of questions that they got correct or incorrect, there is a potential that it could waive some of these different lessons. So these will all be color coded. Green meaning that this lesson has been completed. Yellow meaning that it's in progress. Gray meaning that it could be waived, meaning they don't have to take it, but they can still go into it from a remedial standpoint, or you can make them take it if you wanted to. All of the lessons have associated drills, like I was mentioning before in the slide deck, where the student can get additional practice. So this particular lesson is here, and then we have associated drills that go with it. So the student can still get some additional practice there. There's 10 questions, which is in most cases, and then you can just submit the drill, and then it just says that one was completed. But they have the ability to go in and they can go back in, and they can still get explanation. This is, and it's always variable. It's always randomized as far as questions they're going to get. So they're going to get different questions when they go in because we have such a huge question bank that I was mentioning before. Now I'm going to exit out of this. So this again was very low level literacy. The assignments tab, now that's an area where you as the educator can actually assign different lessons You have the ability to, again, do some customization in that area there. So you can assign a specific student some additional activities or lessons, or an entire group of students if you wanted to. If I were to go into my activity scores, so this shows my scores. So this is my pre-test, total completed, practice test. This is my recent scores, which I didn't do very well on. And then down here, it would show my scoreboards. So my practice test recent versus my previous. So again, you have the ability to reset those practice tests. Post-test and pre-test, you have the ability to do that as well. It shows them exactly here, what the score bands are, and so on and so forth. And then there's drills in Flash, which we haven't gone into yet. And then there's essay test as well. So now I'm going to go back to my classrooms. I'm just going to go on for time's sake to the Kaplan GED prep solution. So again, this is our landing page that we have for the Kaplan GED prep solution. Couple of things to mention here. Our experience with programs on learners led us to this custom design of all features and functions of our learning management system. So it's really, like I said before, it's really designed to increase student engagement, confidence, and accountability. So again, this is the dashboard that is specific to the Kaplan GED prep experience as well. So here we have the dashboard. It's again telling them, how much time they spent in the classroom, what their history was, what activities, have been completed, what their next, activity assignment could be potentially, and then my 7-day time, my 7-day target. It has all that, and then it also tells me what's included within this particular, within the Kaplan GED prep solution, and it has my daily time in the past 7 days. So we have available to us under the student practice tests. These practice tests can be accessed anytime and can be used in a number of different ways. So the first way it can be used would be in, taking in a student and having them go in and take a GED practice test to see where they're actually at. So they have the ability to do that. The other way is obviously to see how ready they are to take the actual operational test. So we understand the importance of practice tests, so we've built in these practice tests at that HSE level. They're only found in the HSC series, and our randomized version comprise of randomized test questions. So they actually mimic the actual operational test. And like I said, you can use these as a pre-test. So if we just go into mathematical reasoning, so the first page they'll come to is how to navigate the system. Again, up here, it tells me how many questions. It's got my clock, it's keeping my time. I have access to a calculator. So I have that. I have a scratch pad, and I can flag questions for review. And then down here, it shows an explanation of how to navigate the system as well. So we're going to go through, and I'm just going to guess on some of these questions. So if you're a math person, don't make fun of me. And I hate to move through this so fast. I apologize, but I just want to make sure that you all can see this. And then I'm going to submit my work. So yes, I wish to submit for grading. So so here, once we've submitted for grading, we show the readiness meter. We check at least one question from every competency from the operational HSE test. This is not a score, but it's a percentage of existing knowledge, right? So we can show our question reviews. So these are all of our questions, much like we had, when we went through the fundamentals portion of it. So they have the ability, the student has the ability to go in and see what questions they got correct. And again, it's giving them, it tells them, yes, you got it correct. And this is how to get to that correct answer. And then down here, we can launch into different lessons if we want to take us back and get some more practice on those particular areas as well. So I'm going to exit out of here.
I
If-
have a question about the 7-day gauge
Yep,
on your dashboard there. Is that customizable or is it always 7-day outlook?
for the student, it's 7 days.
Okay.
Okay. So from this part, we can go with our learning plan. As you may recall, this is where the student will access all their pre-test, lessons, drills, post-test. This methodology is really the foundation of all of our courses because it's really going to help us build out that individualized learning plan that we were talking about. So no, again, all of these courses are built into, let me minimize that. So they're broken down to units and lessons, and then all from that point. So we're going to go into mathematical reasoning as an example, because math tends to be the toughest subject. So mathematical reasoning, and then quantitative problem solving and geometry. So I've already taken the pretest here, but we did see an example of what the pretest looks like. Again, you have that ability to just show particular lessons if you want. So they're not looking at all of these different lessons. And then we have our associated drills, okay? So if I go into, as an example, quantitative problem solving in, let's see here, Pythagorean theorem. Let's go to the Pythagorean theorem. It gives us our objective screen. Now I have the audio support off right now, but again, they all have audio. This has 20 questions. It gives us an example with good graphics of the Pythagorean theorem. And then the next thing I come to is this video, which I can turn on. 25, there we go.
In this video, you'll learn how to apply the Pythagorean theorem. The three sides of a right triangle have a special relationship to one another, which can be expressed with the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. In this equation, a and
So this video is only 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Most of the video, I think the longest that I've seen is about 6 minutes. So they're not overwhelmingly long where you're going to lose a student, but the student always has the ability to go back to these different videos when they're in the system for additional lessons. It's kind of like having a tutor on the go.
So they're able to pause those videos and stop
Yep.
and apply. Okay, so with the 10-minute timeout that you mentioned earlier, what, as an educators, what would you direct we tell our learners when it comes to pausing a lesson to apply the
To pause a
information?
video? You mean pausing a video?
Well, and then the timeout aspect, you said it's 10 minutes. We have learners who definitely may need more than 10 minutes. So what are they going to need to do to stay signed in without losing their progress or anything like that?
They won't lose their progress. It keeps it where it's at. So if they get timed out, it's saving everything as they're going through.
So I guess my question is, if they pause the videos, if they pause their lessons, what do they need to do to stay in the system without getting timed out?
So
Like, move their mouse around.
There'll be a pop-up that shows up saying, "Are you still there?" And they can click OK.
Okay, good. So because that's good. Great.
Yep. So this is a skill check that's embedded. I'm just gonna. Okay, so it shows me it's incorrect and it gives me the correct answer, but more importantly, it gives me this little explanation button here that I can click on. And then what's going to pop up is, again, another video. And it's going to show me a little bit of this.
Question 4 doesn't give us a figure, but we can draw one using the information given. We have a right triangle whose legs measure 13 centimeters and 9 centimeters. We need to find the measure of the hypotenuse, which we'll call C.
And you can see this one here is just 1 minute and 40 seconds. So as we're going through, we have another skill check. This is another example of a different type of skill check, I believe. So this one's a multiple choice. And then I guess, and it tells me the incorrect, and then it still is going to give me this explanation video. Some are going to be drag and drop, fill in the blank, all of those different things.
Matt, it's Sarah. I'm going to jump in because I know my colleagues from Good Learning Anywhere have got to jump into another meeting.
Yep.
I just wonder if I could ask any of Linda, Warren, and Julie to send me any questions that you think of maybe later today or even Monday, because I know that Matt and crew are definitely going to be taking a break after we're finished today. And I will forward those to Matt. I will make sure that I send your emails so that you can get demo accounts when Matt can arrange them. And Linda, Warren, and Julie, if there's anyone else from Good Learning Anywhere that you need to have a demo account, let me know, please. And of course, the same for all of you from the Learning Hub, Courtney, Vanessa, and Tess. If you was trying to stay on, I'm sorry for interrupting, but I just know that Good Learning Anywhere folks may have to run.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay, thanks,
Okay.
Sarah, and thank you, Matt. We appreciate you taking the time to show
You're
this.
welcome. For sure.
And happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, thank
Must be
you.
exciting with little ones running around.
That's
So
right.
we appreciate your time.
Thank
Thanks
you,
so
Matt.
much. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, guys. Good seeing you. We'll chat soon.
Have a good weekend.
Just a couple other things to point out here before we let everybody go. We do have a Ready for Work series, and that is basically focusing on, as far as writing a resume, as far as a phone interview, pre-employment skills like researching a company, all of those good things. They all have pre-tests, they all have post-tests, they all have additional drills available. Talks about cover letter basics, resume writing, communication skills, self-management, working with others, so like diversity, all those good things as well. And then to go back, we have our life skills series, and I'll just show you all the different topics there really quick. And I will, when I create a student account, I'll drop a lot of these different courses within those student accounts for you too. So this would be life skills. This is an example. Let's go to career skills. So this is all of the different lessons that are available within career skills. So you can see there's a lot of material here. And then you also have associated drills that go along with those as well. Okay.
And so, Matt, for the enrollment side of it, like obviously on the admin side, it's pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, so with you guys having such a large number of students, you can actually enroll students through a CSV. So there's some different rules that, to create that and just drop them in. And then everybody would be, have a username and password right off the bat. So instead of having to go student by student, you wouldn't have to do that.
And so we've been using kind of is there a way to differentiate? I'm trying to think now, 17 practitioners? Is it more than that? I can't remember. We have several different practitioners. So would there be a way for them to organize? Obviously, I would think there would be into classes for their specific students.
Yes.
Okay.
There is.
That's a good question.
And you mentioned about notifications on that dashboard screen. Can that be individualized messages to the learners, or is that more like notifications that you mark something and tell them to go back into the assignment?
Well, so this can be notifications. So up here, what I was talking about, you can send it to an individualized student or a group of students, however you want to do that.
Okay. And sorry, I have 50 million questions. I'm sorry.
No.
So back into that life skills one, so if you assign them, say, like the careers piece, do they automatically get all of those assignments? No,
Yep.
you can choose, right?
You can choose. Yeah, you could customize that if you wanted to. So you can customize that experience.
Okay.
So if you didn't want them to see all of them, you can pull certain titles out. You have the ability to do that.
Okay. And so like on average, how long does it take a person to work through that content? I know it's different for every learner, but
So for life skills,
yeah. If you were
I'll
doing,
just go.
say, I don't know, yeah. So say you did that section, what would you expect for them?
So this says 37 pages.
Mm-hmm.
I know this one has audio, but it's just clicking through, and it's not like overwhelming
Okay.
as far as how it pops up. So it tells them what they're going to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And then there'll be skill checks embedded as well. So you can see there's not much per page. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then here's a skill check.
That's nice.
Yep. And then it gives me the explanation from that skill. Yeah, so it depends on the student, how much time, you know what I mean? It really depends. But they're not overwhelming. Again, these are written at like the, 7th, 8th grade level. So they're not,
Okay. Just good. We have such a range of levels within our learners. So
yeah,
just
absolutely.
trying to, so it's nice to know that you have the different categories. And
Right.
obviously, if we decided to move forward, it would probably take us a little bit to figure out how to balance our licenses, I guess, or for the different
Yeah, well,
levels, right?
I can kind of help guide you on that and figure out what's going to be the best, route to go. That's not a problem. I'm happy to do that. That's part of what I do. So,
Matt, how many different like looks are there to this dashboard? Like depending on like the Kaplan one's slightly different. The couple you've opened look more similar.
Like the fundamentals and the
Foundation.
Like
foundation
yeah, the
look
different.
similar.
Yeah. Do you know like if most of them follow like? Do you know what I'm getting at?
like
I don't know if I'm using it. I don't know if I'm using the
format,
right term.
the
Like the
same
layout.
format, or are you talking the tiles?
Yeah, and I'll give you an example. Like, no, not the tiles. Once you click in, like I like the simplicity of the Kaplan GED one. I
Okay.
like this stuff. It's more, see, this to me mirrors the, oh, right. Okay, so that's the home. Then you go into the learning plan.
Yep.
And there was one there, it seemed like there was a lot going on. And I just
think that
wondered.
was the activity score thing, maybe.
Okay. I was just curious if they all follow the same look, even if it's different colors.
They all follow the same look.
They all have the same. Okay. It must have been a different tab that seemed like busier than another tab. So there isn't really a lot of variation in terms of the learning plan.
No.
Okay. So that's good to know. That because that would mean if you, for whatever reason, you switched a learner from one course, I don't know what you call them again, like a
Catalog
or whatever to another
Right.
one, it's not like they have to kind of go, whoa, this dashboard looks way different.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
It's all like, I guess, uniform, I guess, if that makes sense. Just so,
Yep. No, that's good. That's really good. Good to
So
know.
I just wanted to show you really quick. This is Bridge. So this is that, pre-HSE series. But the bonus material here is they have developing your study skills as a bonus material, which is really good. So as far as, improving your study skills, and then obviously the reading and writing and all that kind of stuff. So this is writing, nouns and verbs, and then it goes through. So it's the same, it's very much the same, the system as far as whatever series you're in. So the students can have the same experience, with whatever series that they're in.
Okay.
And is everything self-marking, Matt? or are there things that have to be marked individually
So the essays would have to be marked.
which makes sense for sure. Okay.
Yep.
And so is there a way, like, is it relatively easy for the educator or the practitioner to navigate to the part where they would have to mark that essay?
Yes,
Okay.
it is. I wanted to show you one thing here too, which you'll have access to on the administrative side, is that you can allow them to get certificates and awards. So
Nice.
once they've completed, a certain lesson, they can get a certificate saying, hey, I've completed this.
Nice.
Nice. That's cool.
And the awards are like a digital badge.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And so one other thing, you were talking about how you're doing those language things. I guess that's the nice thing of you guys kind of overviewing, so you don't have to republish that. The next time that learner logged in, it would just show up. Is that
Right.
correct?
Correct.
So helps with the maintenance side of life in
That's
our
right.
world.
Right.
Matt, how much time does it normally take to onboard any organization or group of educators to get their heads around the system?
It depends on how fast you want to move. Honestly, we can get you trained, onboarded within, a few days.
Well, I know that well, there's going to be lots of discussion, and I
Good.
don't know what the outcome is, but there'd also be need to think of optimal times of the year in terms of where students already are in these organizations and with the learning plans they now have. So I assume for these organizations that time would have to be built into more administrative periods of the year when their instructors aren't already case managing a lot of learners.
So the one thing that I'm trying to get my hands on, because in Canada, we've had a handful of accounts that we've worked with in Canada that have been with us for a long time, and they used to be under a product that was called Learning Essentials. Now, Learning Essentials would give one license, would the student can access fundamentals, foundations, bridge, and the Kaplan or the GED prep solution, where we've kind of pieced that out now. So you're only purchasing what licenses you need or how many licenses you need in each series. At that point, there was like a somewhat of a transition guide, like a blueprint.
Mhm.
So that's something that I've asked our CEO, because I had another call yesterday with a couple of different Canadian accounts, and to see if we can get something like that, because you're going to have students that are in those situations.
Where they transition through the different levels, which totally makes sense.
Right. Now, the other thing that you could do, and I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, is actually have the student take that free Aztec locator series. And that would give them, the instructor or whoever it may be, the admin, an idea of exactly where the student's at.
Mhm.
And that's free. There's no charge for that at all.
Mhm.
But that's another way that you could potentially do it as well.
Okay.
I didn't pick up on that. The Aztec locator would be done before you enroll them in the platform?
So there's a couple things that we use here in the US. One is called CASAS and one is called TABE. Those are testing benchmarks based on NRS levels. So based on whatever scores that the student gets, and either if they're using CASAS or TABE, and it's typically state by state, whether they use CASAS or TABE, those scores place them into our series. However, we have the Aztec Locator series, which is a free assessment that's specific, it's proprietary to Aztec only, that if the student takes that Aztec Locator test, it places them exactly in what series that they would need to be in. Whether it's fundamentals, foundations, bridge, or a mix, or whatever the case may be. Because you may have a student that's at, bridge level in reading, as an example, but they're in the foundations level for math.
Mhm.
you know, so you obviously want to be able to enroll them in both of those, right? So that would be, you know, another type of thing to, I guess, kind of think about. Did you want me to get into pricing right now, Sarah, or no?
I just had 2 questions about it. Is it an annual renewal? I'm assuming yes.
Yeah, so it's 12-month access.
Okay. And then my other question was, say we purchase so many licenses, right, in our agreement, if we had to add additional ones, is that a process or is it pretty straightforward?
It's very straightforward. So you can add at any time. We can also prorate licenses for your renewal. So when you're coming up on your renewal, then you would just pay the full price for the next 12 months.
Okay.
And for the organization structure, is there ability to have silos like between the programs or no? Like between the ones that were in attendance today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So I think what I need to do, Matt, is follow up as I suggested to collect any additional questions as you have the chance. It probably would be better for you to mull over this at least today. Let Matt go off and enjoy his weekend.
Absolutely.
And then I will send them early next week along with everybody's email.
If you could note on that, Sarah, when you send those over to me, the emails and names, who would probably want to see the admin side of it, that would be helpful.
Well, I'll ask Courtney and Tess and Vanessa, is that all of you in the Learning Hub's case? And I think it may be exactly the same for the 3 we had from Good Learning Anywhere, because these are our managers. And as Vanessa said, there's probably another 17 instructors in the Learning Hub, and there are additional instructors in Good Learning Anywhere.
We can share one account to preview, Matt, if you're worried about how many trial accounts you have, for sure. And we could just take turns if you would prefer that.
Yeah,
I mean, hub. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you mean creating like a student account for Learning Hub or something like that?
Yep. And if the admin side, right, if that's how they move forward rather than the presentation, like if they wanted us to just go in to look at something, like maybe they assign our test account or whatever, just so we can see how it comes across.
So I think the in my mind, the better way to do it is for each of you to have your individual accounts. That way, if anybody else on your team wants to take a look at it, you can share it with them so they can see it too.
Perfect.
Thank you.
We just don't want to make too much work for you.
Hey, that's what I'm paid for. That's what I'm here for, to help you guys.
So I think that we really appreciate everything you've shown us, and thank you for answering so patiently our many questions. I know that support is a huge concern, and you've certainly noted that there would be account representatives that we would have direct lines to. What I know the group has experienced is with different tools that, you know, you get kind of first line customer support, you get a ticket, and then maybe you wait, and you may or may not get
an answer.
What seems like timely follow-up. So I know that that is definitely
that's like dealing with the McGraw Hills and the Elsevieres of the world. Here it's not like that. So it's you know, you'll get an answer. I promise you that.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions, ladies, for the moment?
No, I've used my quota, Sarah.
Okay, Courtney, you're muted.
No.
I see her notes.
She has some issues with her
Sometimes
headset.
I have to reconnect my
There. Okay.
Yeah. No issues. Thank you very much, and go enjoy some football or whatever it is that you're gonna do.
Or Black Friday shopping, whatever your
If you can leave your
whatever
house.
pleasures.
I think we're in for a lockdown here shortly, because we're averaging like 8,000 cases a day. So
yeah,
my mom had it. My mom was in the hospital for 8 days.
Oh
wow.
Man.
Yeah,
Russ,
so it's
that's stressful.
yeah, it's hit close to home, that's for sure. So let's get
Wow.
Is
into it.
she's recovered now then?
Yeah, and thank God she didn't have to be on a ventilator or anything. So it's good.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's stressful.
Yeah, it is.
Toronto is, we live pretty rural where we are,
Right,
so it's nice
right.
that way.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
I'll
bad in
stop the
Michigan.
recording.
It's getting bad.
Yeah.